everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and this is my husband Ryan.
Hello.
And it's been a while since I made a video, but the last time that I did make a video, I had stated that the plans for this channel was for myself and my husband to share with you how we became debt-free, and then subsequently how being debt-free has affected the way that we live now. That we have a lot more options open to us because we're not saddled with this debt. And so today we thought we would sit down and kind of explain sort of how we became debt-free. Now there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube that will explain step by step basically the same way we did it, and the way that we did it was through a guy named Dave Ramsey. And let's show. And he wrote this book, The Total Money Makeover, and he's written a few other books too. And he has like a podcast and a radio show, and he's been around for a long time. But so this was the essential method that we followed. We made a couple of little tweaks to it, but my husband is the financial guy in the family.
I'm the nerd.
And so, but one day, you know, I guess we'll just start with kind of how we got in debt. and essentially, like, you know, it's not going to be this earth-shattering sort of way that we got into debt. We are like most people. I think that most people think being in debt is an absolutely normal thing. So how should we start?
Well, we could go back to the history
Sure.
a little bit. We discovered Dave Ramsey, well, we've been married for 20 years, okay? Yeah. So about 20 years, but we discovered Dave Ramsey probably about 10 years ago. I used to listen to him on the radio, as a matter of fact, and then we bought his book shortly thereafter. I read the book, and very interesting, and we tried to implement some of his principles.
Right.
We did, like, it's called Dave-ish.
Dave-ish.
We had bought the envelopes, we had started putting money aside, and we couldn't get much traction. We didn't do it right.
Right. And
then about summer of 2018, we've had the I've had it moment.
Yeah.
Because, well, we were just being normal. We'd make some big purchases. We wouldn't get too over our heads, but we'd take advantage of the interest-free, and then as long as we reasoned if we paid off our credit card every month, we were doing okay. And we never really had a problem doing that, but we were carrying a lot of debt. We had interest-free accounts, and what our I've had it moment was about was our HELOC, which is tied to our house, our mortgage.
It's a home equity line of credit.
We had got a good rate on it with a $50,000 limit. However, then in 2018, the Fed started raising the interest rate, and our minimum payment due of like $60 grew to about $200 each month, just in a matter of 6 months.
Right.
And that was the I've had it moment for me.
Absolutely. And so when you want to become debt-free, there's a lot of mental preparedness that needs to happen before you can just become debt-free. Because you guys, this is not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be debt-free. And so again, you know, you can go out and find lots of different videos about how to do the program. And I mean, we can touch on that a little bit, but in all honesty, you can know the steps, but it's implementing the steps no matter what. That is what caused us to become debt-free. Now, you might ask, how much debt are we talking here? So we were able to pay off $46,758 in 12 months. And I think that is actually pretty awesome. I think we totally knocked it out of the park, but it was not simple. What did we have to do in order to pay off almost, well, it was almost $47,000?
We got intense. And if you follow Dave Ramsey's plan, it's awesome. You know, he describes it all out. It goes by the baby steps, and I'll briefly touch on that.
Right.
You save $1,000 in the bank first, and for many people, that's the first time you actually save money. For most people,
right?
It wasn't hard for us. That's actually one of the easiest ones. But then after that, baby step 2 is using the debt snowball, paying off all your debts from smallest to largest. Now our biggest debt was our HELOC, of course, which was basically where all the major debt was just poured onto that balance, because it was low interest and it was an affordable payment. So when we got in trouble with unexpected expenses, we just kind of shoved on to the HELOC, and that ended up over the course of years growing. So
it was kind of a safety net for us. Anytime something came up that, you know, oh, we want to put down new floors in our house. Oh, we need a new roof. Oh, and we would just, or I mean, even like buying a used car, we would just write a check. And so all the debt was on that one car, on that one account. But we also had some credit cards too. So, and one of the things Dave wants you to do, is cut up all your credit cards. That can be really difficult, because you feel like, no, that's my safety net. That's what I need in order to, what if there's an emergency? That's why you have that $1,000 in place. And granted, $1,000 may not seem like a lot if your furnace goes out in the middle of winter, or if your car blows up, and you know, what are you gonna do? So again, go ahead, I'm sorry, but just
so getting intense is having a plan, giving every dollar a name, what he talks about. And that's what we have to do. We have to get tough with ourselves. No living the way we have been living, but we got to do a radical change.
Absolutely.
That's the only way you're going to get the radical results. And I must say that in order for you to do it, because it's difficult to do, you both have to be on the same page. As well as we sat our kids down and we said, no more extra expenses, no more basically having fun doing
extracurricular activities.
Extra things. So we knuckled down and we watched every penny, gave ourselves a strict budget, wrote it down on paper beginning of every month, and we stuck to it with, I mean, as little as $100 a month for groceries. No, a week rather.
A week for 4 people.
For 4 people groceries, and that's what we had to live on. And it was originally $40 a week for each of us spending money.
Yes.
And that was supposed to sustain us for whatever. Really.
Yeah, I mean, we had money for gas. We had money for, you know, I think then we drove gas vehicles. We also have electric cars now, but I don't know if we had electric cars then. I think we had one maybe. But
and that was another thing we had to do, because we had a car payment. Her car had a payment. We sold her car.
Yeah.
And then
that was hard, you guys.
I had a truck, and we ended up selling the truck toward the end of our journey. And we had a camper, and we also sold a camper. We had a garage sale. We got radical. We sold everything that we had not used within a couple months' time. We sold it, made some money on it, and put it right on the debt.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think we could have dragged it out longer than the year, but I mean, and I was just like, I was so ready just to be done with the debt. I wanted to move on with my life, and that seemed to be the one hurdle that we needed to get past. And so yeah, we had a big garage sale. And the other thing, guys, is that not only do you have to get tough with yourself, you got to check your ego at the door, because if you're not prepared to get some funny looks from people, if you're not prepared to have to explain that you're trying to better what Dave Ramsey would say, your family tree, this is not for you. If you worry about what people think, this is definitely not for you, because you might have friends and family just be totally turned off by you. They're gonna think you're weird. And actually, Dave Ramsey says that if people call you weird, then you're doing everything right. You know, you want to be the weird people, and we were. And then when we finally became debt free and we told our friends and we posted it on social media, and even Dave Ramsey, he featured us in one of his Instagram posts and gave us a woohoo, you know, it was pretty cool.
And I must say, now it is so worth it.
Oh,
it is so worth it, guys.
Oh my gosh.
You know, it was hard going through it, but we saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and now we have no payments. Our whole paycheck is ours to spend.
Yeah.
It is wonderful. It
Yeah.
really is.
It really is. But your mind shifts when you go through something like this. It's when you do have the money, you really second guess what you're going to do with that money. You know, you might feel like you want to buy this new thing, but then generally when we get there, we're like, I don't think I need it that bad. I mean, it kind of, there are some negatives to this, if you can imagine, besides being strict on yourself.
For me, it's like, now I have the money to go buy whatever I want, but it's like, wow, wait a minute, I like the money a little bit more than that thing.
Yeah. So
that's what's happened to me. And I'll briefly touch on the steps a little bit more. It's basically to end up in a place where you are financially independent, not have to rely on anybody. And step 3 is, after you pay off all the debt, you fully fund an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. He's big on that. 4 is putting away 15% of your salary into a IRA for retirement. 5 would be our college fund, which we didn't do that. We are going to invest into that, but we will tackle that when it gets to. And then 6 is fully pay off your house. Now, our story is a little bit different. Is our main debt was a HELOC, which was our mortgage included. So we counted that as a bill in baby step 2. So when we paid that off, we were actually completely debt free at that time.
So that means we paid off our house too.
Yes.
We don't have a mortgage anymore. So Dave Ramsey doesn't necessarily say that that's what you ought to do, because like it says in the baby step 6 is you pay off your mortgage after all that other debt. So that's something that you work on later, because let's be honest, the mortgage is the most expensive thing you'll probably pay off. So when I say that we didn't do it exactly like Dave Ramsey said to, we didn't follow the steps in exact way that he said. But
it's because of our situation was different. We had originally, when we first got married, we had a condo. So when we had the condo, we ended up putting that on the market, which we had equity in. We ended up finding an older lady, and we just traded houses with her.
That's
a
pretty cool thing.
To where we almost covered the equity we had in our condo to be into the house we're in now. So we didn't have a mortgage at that time, but shortly thereafter we opened that home equity line of credit, and then of course our debt just grew from that.
Because we bought an older home that needed some updates and things, and just like everybody, you want a nice place to live in, and for sure. And
then the last step is build wealth.
And
that's where he says to live and give like no one else.
So
his slogan is, if you live like no one else, later you can live like no one else. And that's so really true. So true. So true.
And that's the one thing I kept telling myself. We kept saying when people would say, hey, let's go out to eat, or let's go camping, let's go do this, we would be like, no, we knew if we went, we would be going off track. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't go to a restaurant or out to eat, but Dave does say that you better not set foot in a restaurant unless you're punching the clock to work there. I mean, he's really strict, you guys. So if you can't handle that,
Because let's face it, you can eat a lot cheaper at home than you can go into a restaurant.
I don't know
and that's really what it's all about. He doesn't say that you can never eat at a restaurant again. It's while you're in debt. You can't afford to because you have debt.
So there are definitely pros to the program, there's cons as well. And I think you just have to ask yourself, how bad do I want it? How bad do I want to be debt free and live like no one else? Because I really can only think of like one other person that we know of that are debt free and own everything outright. And they pretty much did the same exact way of living. They just were very frugal and they didn't spend. And most people aren't like that. That's not the society we live in. So in order to be successful with this, you're definitely going to have to check your ego and ask yourself, you know, am I willing to give up my comforts in order to do this?
And I was thinking, timely around the time we're living in right now with this pandemic going on, it's so important to not be strapped with a bunch of debt, because let's say you lose your job. What are you going to do? Now all these bills are coming in due and you have no money. So it's very important that you be responsible and be able to take care of yourself and your family. Yeah,
and we actually became debt free just a little over 1 year ago. So I can't, you know, of course we had no idea that this pandemic was going to happen back in 2019. No one did. So, I mean, how happy we were when we were going through the roughest parts of it, and just knowing that, you know, we were going to be okay. And a lot of other people were just, you know, they weren't going to make it past a couple of weeks of not having any money. And you know, not to get political, but there is a good chance that we're going to come up upon another wave of this pandemic. So wouldn't it be a great time now to get your ducks in a row, to buckle down and to start this journey? It'll be beneficial because you've already been through it once, and hopefully you didn't fare too badly, but if you did, maybe you're still trying to get caught up. But we cannot recommend it enough. It changed our lives becoming debt free. I mean, at our age, most people are still paying their student loans and things like that, and their mortgages. It's so great to just say, we own everything outright.
Our real only regret is that we didn't do it sooner.
Absolutely. And I mean so if you're, you know, in your 20s, it would be great for you guys to never have all that debt, but unfortunately that happens. But the best thing to do is to start today and get the book. Go out and look for Dave Ramsey. You can, you know, YouTube him. He's got all of his radio shows that you can listen to. He is a more faith-based kind of program, so those of you who are Christian will really enjoy the principles there with the program, and he is very strict about his program. He wants you to do it exactly as he lays out in the book, and you really should. If you can, you should do it exactly how he says.
Don't take 10 years to do it like we did.
No, don't take 10 years.
It can be done a lot faster, depending on how intense you get. But he normally, depending on how much debt and how much you make, you should be able to do it in about under 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, unless you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars, but generally a lot of those big debts, like you could be like us and sell. Well, we sold 2 vehicles and a camper, and that like helped so much. And most Americans today have 1 to 2 car payments, and then you have full coverage insurance. What about getting a used car? Can you lower your standards just for that amount of time? And Dave does not like the idea of driving a brand new car unless you're debt free. And then he's like, you do what you got to do. But I don't see us ever buying a brand new car, like ever. Our standards are lower in a lot of ways, but yet they're higher in other ways. You just gotta ask yourself, you know, what's really the most important thing. So, and yes, we did go through a time period where it was a little hard because our children are at that age where they wanted to do extracurricular things. And so if your family's really into that, you know, that's something that you've got to just kind of really figure out for yourself. Our kids were, you know, they understood that that's what it was going to take. It was only going to be for a year. And I don't think they're any worse for the wear. I really don't. I think it built character in them, and they will never forget that year that we sat together as a family and did things together. And it was a bonding time too. So do you have any regrets?
No, I don't. Not at all.
Except for maybe not doing it sooner.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend it to anyone. And you know, you do have to sacrifice quite a bit, but it's temporary.
Yes.
And that time period will get over with, and then it's just wonderful after that.
It really is.
Now, the most important thing you mentioned, extra things, if you put it in the budget, it's covered. As long as you're living on less than you make and not more than what you make, you can do this.
And one thing too that you can do is get some side jobs. If you're an at-home mom, you know, maybe you can, I don't know, sell things on eBay. Or I don't know that Dave recommends doing MLMs, you know, like selling makeup or doing, you know, like selling clothes and things like that, where there's these pyramid type situations, because generally you have to invest money into the product before you sell it. I think Dave is more about going out and delivering pizzas or driving Uber, so that you've got that money right off the bat and you're not investing money into that generally. Yeah, I think.
But he's awesome. We watch the podcast on YouTube almost every day to keep us motivated, and it works.
Yeah.
You hear the experiences of people becoming debt-free, doing their screens.
Yeah.
It really inspired us.
Absolutely.
To keep going.
Yeah, it really did. So I think, well, if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them below. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. So thanks a lot, Ryan, for coming on and helping me explain all this. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.